One's life begins to change when their desires transform into concrete actions. You're listening to the Desire to Be podcast, where your desires for your life and relationships become your mastery. I'm your host, Devora Goldberg, and thank you for joining. Welcome to the Desire to Be podcast. Today, I have an amazing guest with me. I have Rivky Itzkowitz, who's a fashion designer in New York City. As a practicing Orthodox Jew, Rivky was frustrated at not being able to find modest clothing that actually fit. So she set out to create her own company. And her company is called Impact Fashion, which is among the only size-inclusive modest fashion lines on the market today. Every style is fitted to perfection and is available in sizes 2 to 28 because there's no reason why it shouldn't be. She's also the host of the Impactful podcast, where she sits down with women making a difference in their own corners of the world. Rivky, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
It sounds like you were feeling the frustration at not being able to find modest clothing that fit. And at the same time, you were not only looking out for yourself, you were also looking to serve others in your community. Tell us more about this.
So for me, as someone who grew up dressing modestly, before we keep going, I just want to say I feel fine. I just sound gnarly for anyone listening on the podcast. Apologies for the croaking frog you get to listen to today. For someone who grew up dressing modestly, I always had frustrations, right? Because when I was shopping in department stores, there was a lack of options that my modest lifestyle. And at the time, there weren't that many modest brands. I'm in my late 20s now, and this idea of like the modest brand that don't need to be layered and things like that, that's only like 10 to 15 years old. And even that might be a stretch. So I didn't have options in the non-modest market. And then as these modest brands started coming up, which was like around when I hit like maybe middle schoolish age, those companies tended to run really small. I have a couple of theories, but those are not important right now. But those brands just tended to run really small. And I have I've never been conventionally very small. I've never been what we would consider plus size. I currently wear a size 14, and that's the biggest that I've ever been. And if you go into, a department store, a size 14 is not considered plus size. You're still shopping in the regular section and all of that. But if I was going into a modest store as a size 8, 10, there was nothing that fit me. My sister who wore a size 2 was buying the extra large. So what does that mean for people who are like actually need the extra large? So for me, there was a lot of frustration in that. And I was also just really obsessed with fashion. I love clothes. I love putting outfits together. I've always just loved this idea of how we present ourselves and how we look and everything. I love, love, love clothes, but I couldn't wear everything that my friends were wearing because I didn't fit into them. So when I was thinking about careers, I knew that I wanted to do something in fashion. I've been sewing since I'm 10. I'm a couture trained dressmaker, seamstress, and pattern maker. And it was just like, well, I want to make modest pieces. I don't think that I'm going to find a job in the wider fashion industry making the types of clothes that I want to make. And I think that my community could really use just better fitting clothes. Why is a 10 not actually a 10? Why is a 16 not actually a 16?
Is that right?
And
They would call it one
so that
size?
was kind of how it started. And then as I became known as someone whose 10 was actually a 10, right? And whose 12 was actually a 12, and who could provide that really well-fitting garment, which is something that I've always really strived to do. That was when people started coming to me and say, well, I wear an 18, I wear a 20, I wear a 24. Can you make something for me? And I'm like, yeah, no one's doing that. Why is nobody doing that? Why is nobody making modest clothes for these sizes? And as I looked around, I found that there were a lot of biases that were preventing other companies from even thinking about it, that were frankly just really dumb excuses.
Such as what?
Things like, oh, it's so expensive to produce. Is it really? It's not that much more fabric. People don't realize that the difference between sizes is 1.5 inches in the all-around measurement. 1.5 inches of fabric is not that expensive. People would say things like, my customers that know me already that wear size 2 and 4, they don't want to be seen wearing the same thing as someone who wears the size 22, 24. And I'm like, really? That seems funny. And the exact reaction that you just made, I asked around people. I talked to all sorts of people.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you wear size 6. Would you care if someone who wears a size 24 wore the same thing? No, why would I care? That seems weird.
Yeah.
or stores didn't want to have and brands didn't want to have the reputation as like the fat girl store, right? Like the plus size store. We make plus size, like
I just want to
the
like break that
same
down for a
types of
second because the
things.
stigma of like being a certain size and not being able to be catered to because of a person's size when there's so much more to that makes up a person. I just want to hit on that for a moment. Like, what was that like for you? What's the feedback you're getting from others? And what is your brand showing these people?
So I will say this was about 7 years ago, and that feeling is not as prevalent now as it was then.
Mhm.
At the time when I started Impact Fashion, I started it as a wholesale only line. And that was because I thought it would be easier. I was wrong. But either way, I think that when you have things that are done a certain way for 30 years, it's really hard to think in a different way. And I
Mhm.
think that we also have to cut the modest world some slack because the wider fashion world has only started really caring about plus size consumers within the last, I want to say, like 10, 15 years.
Right. Like
Christian
the
Siriano
Barbies.
was widely regarded.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Christian Siriano was widely regarded as the first designer who did an inclusive runway.
Mhm.
And I believe that he just celebrated his 15th anniversary. It might have been 20. And this wasn't something that he did from his first collection either. He only did it a bunch of years back. At the end of the day, the biases were just not true. The one thing that I did find to be true was that there are still some people who think that I only sell plus size clothing because we're so used to thinking of, there are straight size brands and there are plus size brands. So I did fall a little bit into that, but it's also just a matter of, I carry sizes 2 through 28. I'm an inclusive brand. And the more times that we say that, the more people who just realize like, oh, this is a little bit different than how we're used to seeing this. And it's very important to me to carry sizes 2 through 28. You asked about, how what we're doing is differently.
Mhm.
If a design is constructed properly, if it is engineered properly, then it can look good on a variety of sizes. It's a lot more about proportions and balance and body shape than it is about size. Size,
Mhm.
I would argue that size is really irrelevant. And by carrying that wide range of sizes, I am able to show people, first of all, that that's not true, and also just make that point. Something that looks good on a size 28 might not look good on a size 2 because it's the wrong proportion for her. And something that looks amazing on a size 2 can look good on a size 28. It's really just about keeping things.
Yeah. So is that something you focus on, like the proportion of the body size when you're looking at size 2 versus size 28? Because do you think about the body shape, which is different, and therefore it's not just like, the contour like this in a larger size, but you're taking more into account.
Yeah, so I think exclusively about balance. So
Okay.
what that means is that and I'm a huge advocate for thinking about our body shape as opposed to our body size.
Yes,
So
I've
your
heard you speak
shape
about
is
that.
Yeah, this is what I'm most known for, and I am so happy to be known for this because I think that we've been tricked into thinking if I would only lose 10 pounds, my clothes would fit amazingly well. And the truth is that if your clothes are not the right clothes for your body,
Mhm.
then that's not true. And if your clothes are the right clothes for your body, then you don't have to lose those 10 pounds. You will look just as amazingly well. And I think that we've all had this experience of feeling like if I only lost those 10 pounds and then losing those 10 pounds and still feeling, nah, blah, this is not doing it. Why is this not working? Why is this not doing it? And I think the part of that has to do with our clothes. I think that part of it also has to do with we tie a lot about how we feel about our bodies to how our bodies look. And the
Mhm.
truth is that those are two very separate things. And
Yeah.
by the way, if you don't believe me, look back at a picture of yourself from high school and ask yourself how you feel about that body right now. And I bet you that if looking back, you'd go, oh my God, I would kill to have that body now. And I bet you that in high school, you didn't exactly feel that way. I don't think anybody feels great in high school, but that's a different story. So for me, when I'm designing, I'm thinking about proportion and balance. So I want to keep my designs balanced from a whole person perspective. This
Mhm.
also means that not every design is going to be great for every person. That also means that, some people, if you're a triangle shape like me, if you carry most of your weight in your belly button hips,
Mhm.
then things that are very voluminous on the bottom are just not going to do it for you. But if you're the
Mhm.
opposite, if you carry a lot of your weight in your arms and your bust line, then you need some of that volume on the bottom. But that
Yeah.
means that not every piece in the collection is going to be great for every person,
So
which is why I
yeah,
have the collection sorted by body shape
interesting. Do you have people reaching out to you and saying, I think I'm this body shape. Do you think this dress will look good for me or not?
all the time.
Okay.
Oh yeah, all the time, and I love it.
Mhm.
I spend a lot of time talking with people about what styles would work best for them, what size they should order, and things like that. Because at the end of the day, you need to know what size to order, right? So I have, like a series of questions that I take people through that allows them to, figure out what works for them.
Yeah.
And yeah, all the time, there are people who will say, I really love this dress. Do you think I should get it? At this point, they're usually saying, I own this, and this from the line already, but maybe they're a first time customer. And I'm like, okay, where do you carry most of your weight? What do you feel most comfortable in? Do you tend to wear flarier items or straighter items? Do you like a lot of volume on top or not? What do you feel best in?
Mhm.
And sometimes the answer is, I don't think this style is right for you. I don't think this is going to do it for you. You might want to try this one because I do have something in the collection for everyone. And by
Yeah.
something, I don't mean just one item. There's a large amount of choice for every body type and for every size.
Do you know someone who's stressed? Or rather, do you know someone who's not stressed? Stress is a normal part of life. The only part which is not normal is when we hold onto stressful emotions like resentment, worry, anger, or frustration within. In my 15-minute guided meditations, I guide my clients to identify a stress that they're holding onto within their bodies and release it, leaving them with calm, inner peace, and ease. As a listener of the Desire to Be podcast, my gift to you is a free 15-minute guided meditation while spots are still available. DM me on Instagram at its.devoragoldberg or on Facebook at Devora Goldberg to claim your free session now. It's interesting because as you're speaking, I'm thinking about, I have a teenage daughter and the conversations that happen between teens these days and even adults with social media. We see what styles are out there. We see what fashion is like and we run after a style. And then, like you said, we try to fit our bodies into the clothes, into the specific style. I remember when the pointy shoes came out, I just didn't see myself wearing it and I didn't buy it for like a year until I felt like, okay, this is something that I want to put on my body. But the conversation that you're having, Rivky, is more like, let's appreciate who we are. Let's appreciate how Hashem has made our bodies. And let's find something that's suitable for us without thinking that we have to bend to someone else's narrative of what fashion is like, or what they think I should be wearing, or what my neighbor is wearing, and the rest of the school is wearing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think that, especially from society, we end up in a little bit of a catch-22 because conformity is valued. And there's a lot of good reasons why conformity is valued. And the fact that conformity is valued creates a lot of problems. And I
Mhm.
think that when we take it in the context of what we wear from fashion is very susceptible to highly specific trends, highly specific skirts, highly specific styles of tops. And when those things are just not going to look great on you, it's a little bit of a challenge to figure out, and I think that this is especially important for teenagers. You have to figure out, how can I wear this in a way that makes me feel great? So maybe if it's a very specific skirt, maybe it's about thinking what tops are your best choice with this. Maybe it's thinking about, everybody's wearing the leopard print. Maybe I'm bringing that in with a belt as opposed to with a whole dress. Maybe I'm thinking about, this very specific skirt that everybody has a very specific plaid pattern. That pleated skirt is not going to do it for me. So maybe I'm getting a plaid blazer that allows me to think about it in that way. But it is a very tricky question, and it's something that it also takes a very strong personality to say, I'm not going to wear the skirt. But the truth is that if everybody's wearing a very specific thing and you want to wear the thing that everybody's wearing, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's kind of acknowledging, like, this is maybe not the best style for me. I might not feel the best about my hips in this pleated skirt,
Yeah.
but I'm choosing to wear that skirt over pursuing a conventionally flattering look, which is fine. There's no rules around, like what it's, outside the bounds of, halacha or tznius, and that's a separate conversation that we're not going to have now. But there's nothing wrong with wearing something that is not conventionally flattering on you. Just don't, if you do make the decision to wear something that is not conventionally flattering, then think about it as, I am making the conscious choice to wear the skirt that everybody is wearing over something that maybe would make me look smaller, which
Mhm.
again is not the end all and be all. But that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with me. That doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with the way that my body is shaped. It's just that I am choosing to work from a different perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's also the element of like, do I feel comfortable in this just because other people are wearing it? As you know, like now they have
Right.
those long jean skirts back in. And I haven't owned a long skirt. I only wear pencil skirts. It's just my comfort zone. And I try to put on some long skirts sometimes and it just doesn't feel right. So yes, it's a trend, but I'm not going to buy something that's going to sit in my closet just because other people are buying it as well. So tell us when you started your clothing line.
I started in 2016. I was selling to other modest stores.
And how has it evolved since you started, since 2016?
So I started in 2016 as a wholesale only line. At the time, I really honestly I thought it would be easier. I also had spent a long time doing alterations and making custom dresses and dealing with one-on-one clients in a very custom kind of way. And I was honestly a little bit burnt out from that. That was very stressful to do with like the whole business model. Now I take on a very limited number of custom clients now for fun, really. And I was selling to other stores. The problem with selling to other stores for me was twofold. I was running into a lot of those biases that we spoke about earlier. Started adding more sizes when there were a very small number of stores that asked me for it. They saw that my fit was good. They recognized that the fit was good. And they said, would you be willing to make this style for me in other sizes, in larger sizes? And I said, it was actually Lara Schulman from Pink Orchid in Passaic who had a specific dress that was a fantastic dress. And she wanted to reorder it. And she said, can I do this in any size I want? And I was like, yeah, sure. What sizes do you want? And she goes, I want 16, 18, 20, 22, and 24. I was really quiet. And I said, okay, I can make those sizes. There's no real reason why I can't make them. I said, you have customers in those sizes? And she goes, not only do I have customers in those sizes, I have specific people who, when this dress comes in, I will call them and they will buy it. And I said, okay. So I made the dress in those sizes. I shipped it off to her. I called her back 2 weeks later after it shipped. I said, by the way, I'm just so curious what happened with those dresses. And she goes, oh, they were gone 2 days later. They're gone. She was the one who first made me aware of the fact that this size was just not being catered to, that size range. And I was sizes 2 through 12 for a long time. Up until this past summer. There were a lot of stores that did not want to be known as the plus size store. There were a lot of stores also that had already earned a reputation as only carrying styles that ran small. So people who needed the bigger sizes were not walking in there anymore. They had given up on them. So for a lot of these stores, there was a legitimate business concern of not being able to sell these items, which was absolutely valid. So I believe it was about 2018, I started selling online. And I was doing both for about 2 years. And in January of 2020, when I was selling the spring line, because in the winter you sell the next spring line, when I was wholesaling that spring line, I made the decision that that would be my last wholesale line. The online sales were growing slowly at that point, but they were growing. I kept running into these same roadblocks with the stores that they just didn't get it. They just didn't see the potential. And aside from that, a lot of the stores, this was also 2018, in the interim between 2018 and 2020 was when a lot of brands started selling online. And the stores were understandably very nervous. They were worried about brands undercutting them. They were worried about not being able to compete with the online stores. At the time, they still had a huge advantage because we were still pre-COVID and people were not used to shopping online as much, especially in the modest market. And there were a growing number of stores that were refusing to sell from lines that also sold on.
Oh, interesting.
They wanted items in their store that could only be in stores. And I wasn't willing to cannibalize my online business to sell to them. So in January of 2020, I decided that is my last wholesale season. Now, it turns out that was a very good decision because with everything that happened with COVID, I shipped my last wholesale season mid-February of 2020. 3 weeks, about a month later, everything was shut down. A lot of my competitors at the time were producing in China. So they actually were not able to ship because China was already shut down that January. They didn't have the goods. So the stores desperate for items because they weren't getting anybody's new stuff. So when I was shipping in February, they were desperate for my stuff. They sold it through right away. It was a very good season for them because there was very little competition. And then everything shut down. And so when the brands that were producing in China were able to get their goods by April, the stores were not accepting it because they were shut down. There was nothing that they could do. And then through COVID, which was, we try not to think about it too much, right? At the time, I was also exclusively a special occasion line. I was only doing simcha dresses and dressier pieces. That was something that the stores really needed. And also just what I really like designing. So that's what I was making. Through COVID, I pivoted to doing more casual pieces as well, to be more of like a holistic look at a closet. So now we range from casual all the way to super dressy, but we have some nice Shabbos pieces in the middle as well, and
Mhm.
things like that. Um, and then went exclusively online, and I've been exclusively online since the middle and end of 2020.
Wow. I love that story you said about when you shipped the larger sizes to that store and it was like it was sold out within a number of days. Do you have any other feedback that you have from clients when they wear your clothes, when they haven't been able to find that size and now they feel beautiful, something along those lines?
Yeah, that's the best part. My customers are the best, and my customers are the best for a lot of reasons. But I think that one of the main reasons that, particularly my plus size customers, but the truth is that I see this across the size spectrum.
Hmm.
Very often, when someone is taking the chance to order something in a size that they are not used to wearing, and whether that's you now wear a size 28, or I used to wear a size 2 and now I wear a size 6, taking that leap to order something based on how you are right now is a huge step. And getting to walk that journey with people is really very special. And very often I'll hear from customers, I never thought that I could look this good. I never thought that feeling this great in a dress was a possibility for me.
Hmm.
And I mean, you can't beat that. That's really a privilege to get to be the person who's able to open somebody else's eyes to what was there the whole time.
Yeah, I love that. It's fascinating because you think of sizes as a reference point. You know, you walk into a store, you're like, okay, I'm a size 2, I'll take this. But sizes became a label for people. Like, I am a size 2. It's not I wear a size 2. I am a size 2 or I am a 6. And now I had a baby and now I'm an 8 or a 10. And oh my gosh, my world is falling apart. What's your message to people who think this way?
I'm so glad that you pointed that out because I'm actually very careful to never say I am a size 14. I always say I wear a size 14, and I
Mhm.
always label my models. She is 5'3" and wearing a size 24. My message is that it's really hard. I think that we can't just brush off the messaging that we're surrounded with, that we have been told consistently for our entire lives, that to be smaller is to be better, and that if you are bigger, you must not care about yourself. And if only you would try harder, you could be smaller and you could achieve this level of greatness, of whatever that means for you.
Mhm.
And I think that acknowledging that that's the junk that the water that we swim in is really important. And that any moment that you can move away from that in whatever small way that looks like is a win.
Yeah.
And it's really hard. And also, there are tools available to make it a little bit easier.
Absolutely. I believe it all comes down to the mindset and also that when we're deciding to live a quality of life that we want, and for some people, it means eating vegetables. For some people, it means going out with friends, enjoying their wine and enjoying their pastries and being completely present in the moment and saying, this is what I want to have right now. I'm okay with it. I'm not cheating. And therefore, I'm going to have to fit into a bigger size next month. This is who I am. I'm enjoying this social moment and I'm enjoying this good food. And tomorrow, if I want to eat something else, I'll make that decision tomorrow. But I'm not a bad person. I'm going to fit into the size that fits me most. I'm going to show up the way I always do as a human being, not as my size. And I can still look beautiful in whatever choice I make.
Right. And I think about it along similar lines, but maybe with a little bit more nuance, which is that I like to think about the kind of life that I want to have. I don't believe in work life balance. I don't think that work and life are opposite. I think that work is a component of life. And I don't believe in body life balance either. If I desperately wanted to be a size probably like 10, maybe 8, I probably could be. In order to
Mhm.
be that size 10, I would have to quit my job. Because in order to be that size 10, I would need to spend hours a day cooking a certain type of food. I would need to be working out for hours a day. I would need to be only eating certain types of food. I would need to not be going out with my friends. I would need to not be spending the kind of time that I spend with my family. We're recording this on Hanukkah. I would need to have attended those parties and ate only the salad, which is a choice that someone can make.
Yeah.
And I do not begrudge anyone making that choice, but it's not the kind of life that I want to live. I want to live an exciting and total life in all of its everything, right?
Yeah.
And for me, living the kind of life that I want to live, spending the time that I do on my designs, on my family. Being smaller would sacrifice time with them also. I don't want to do that. So when you think about the totality of the decisions that you make and what kind of life that adds up to, the type of life that I want to live right now makes me wear a size 14.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that.
And you're proud of it.
Yeah, it's not even about pride. And it's not even about comfort either. Because there are definitely times when I will get dressed and think, nah, not feeling it today. Just not feeling it today.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine. Everybody has those days. But I think that it's about thinking, okay, in those moments when I'm really not feeling it, what would it mean to be small? What would it mean? What would that look like? And the things that it would take to do that is not a price that I'm willing to pay. It's too expensive. And that means, okay, I'm making the choice to have the body that I have now and to have the life that I have now in that body. And now let's go and enjoy the totality of that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Your finesse and your classy nature is something that you bring to your brand, at least what I see from, social media. What other key features do you try to keep as part of your brand?
Well, the modesty is a big one. I am a modest brand. I'm a modest brand because I dress modestly and I make the kind of clothes that I want to make, that I want to wear. So that's a big piece of it. I also am pretty cognizant of ignoring trends. I am a big believer in buying high quality pieces that you can wear for a decade plus. Yes, I have pieces in my closet that are a decade old. And yes, I still wear them and I love them. The ones that still fit at least. And the idea of like needing to buy an entire new wardrobe every season is something that I think is really just a waste of money. I think that it's been sold to us by fast fashion. And I think that it only makes sense to do that if you're buying lower quality pieces. So every quality is, but the factory that produces my collection, I can't name the brands now, but you've heard of them. I promise. You've seen them on red carpets. You've seen them on celebrities. That's the type of quality that you're getting with my collection. And you can wear it again and again and again for many years to come. So that's important to me also, is that it's a timeless feeling piece, is that it's something that feels current, but will also still feel current 5, 6, 7 seasons down the line.
Yeah. And what I love what you do on Instagram is like you show people how you can like either layer up or layer down or wear this with this kind of piece of clothing because it's winter. So add another sweater on it, or now it's spring. So wear it with this type of shoe. And you really show your customers like an interactive way of wearing their clothes and showing them that it's really a timeless piece. You could wear in different seasons. You could wear it this year, next year, etc. Tell everyone where they can find your fashion line.
So Impact Fashion can be found pretty much just Google Impact Fashion and you'll find it. But the website is impactfashionnyc.com. I'm on all the socials at impact.fashion.nyc. And you can also find the Be Impactful podcast wherever you're listening to this one. And that's the show where I talk to other women doing cool things. I get to have fun conversations like this one every week. And I also do every week, every time when I release a new style, I do a solo episode where I do a deep dive on the thought process behind it. What was I thinking when I created this piece? What was the process of making it like? What did I have in mind for how this piece would be worn? So it's a really great peek behind the curtain, basically, of just how my brain works. And you can find that on all your podcast listening platforms. It's called Be Impactful.
Amazing. And if someone wants to get in touch with you personally, what's the best way to do that?
Email me. It's Rivky, Rivky, at impactfashionnyc.com. I will get back to you. It will not be that day, but I will get back to you. And I'm always happy to chat with people.
Amazing. This was a delightful conversation. I love your thought process. I love what you're giving the world. I love how you're just so curated to your customers' needs. And I just wish you best of luck. What a great episode. Thank you for being here. I truly, truly appreciate you. I'd love for you to tap 5 stars and let me know what resonated. Be sure to connect with me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn under my name, Devora Goldberg. That's where I give you more content. That's where we're able to engage even further. Until next episode, stay safe and be well.